Record. Oh, okay. There it goes. Okay, I'd like to call to order the San Juan County Library Board meeting for June 8th, 2023. Our minute taker tonight is going to be Heather Lynn. And call to order, the time is 5:38 p.m. Roll call, present, myself, Chamberlain, Von Storlin, Podmore, Green, Lynn, Huckabee, and our library director Perkins, assistant director Ramsey, and our county rep McDonald is not here, is absent. Also absent right now is Cody and Schulte. So moving on to the next one, approval of minutes. If you're looking at your packet, it would be the March 2023 minutes that Zach, thank you, Zach, for doing that for us last meeting. We appreciate that. Whenever I don't have to do it, it's always good for someone else. I appreciate it so much. So if everyone had a chance, I really appreciate it when you review all of the information before we have our meeting. It just helps it go a little bit faster. So if anyone noticed any misspellings or anything like that, I had one thing that I noticed that it just needed some confirmation on. It says on the second page, it's the second bullet down from the library director report. It says the library received a grant for $2,000 for Eclipse glasses. And I'm wondering, is that $2,000 or $2,000 in the quantity of how many glasses that the grant was for?
I didn't catch that. It's just we received 2,000 Eclipse glasses, not $2,000.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Or 2,000 Eclipse glasses. Okay. I just didn't know if that was a monetary thing or what. And then Schulte's name is Schulte. That's nitpicky, but he likes to have his name spelled correctly, which is understandable. And Ramsey, yeah, that's okay. And Ramsey is Ramsay. And in the past, we've discussed on library board meetings in the past that we refer to each other as by our last names instead of our first names because it's more professional sounding. So I don't know if that's something you guys want to continue, or do you want to, Zach has everybody with their first names, which is fine too. So what are your feelings on that? This was when I joined the board and we had somebody that was particular on the name thing, which I'm not. I don't care if my first or my last name's on there. So what are you guys' feelings on that?
I thought I sent back a revised copy of the minutes with everyone's names changed to their last names.
Their last names? Okay.
If you did, sorry, I missed it.
Sorry, I got something in my throat. Yeah, I thought you asked for that correction and I made it, but I could have wrote it and not sent it or something. So I don't know. If we need to change it, I'm happy to do that. Or we could approve this as is and go to last names again in the future.
And a lot of times Ramona will just have notes of the changes needed. And when she comes to pick it up to sign it and stuff, she and I just tweak those few things.
We approve it with changes and whatever through our action item, and then we can do whatever. I think that's covered through the way we do it.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I think we could check our emails to see if there's a revised version because I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because I remember you saying that, and I'll go back and look too and see if I can find where it got put, because it might just be lost in one of the, back and forth emails. It might be at the bottom of something. So, if that works.
Yeah.
So, okay. Does anyone else have any discrepancies or anything that was missed?
I'm okay either or, first or last.
Okay.
Marlene. Huckabee.
Okay. If we have a motion to approve the minutes with the changes. Don't all jump at once. Just say, I move to approve
I
the
move that
March
we approve the
2020.
March 23rd minutes approved.
Okay,
3.
the March 23rd, 2023 minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. It's been moved by Huckabee and seconded by Storland to approve the March 2023 minutes. All in favor, say aye with your name.
Huckabee, aye.
I Storland.
I agree.
Hi, Heather.
Did you do it, Zach?
Yeah, he did.
Podmore.
Okay. Good job. Motion to approve. It's like the hardest thing we get through is the minutes, and then it's all like downhill from there. Okay, so I'll get in with Michaela and we'll fix that and we'll find the other one. Okay, moving on. We're going to make this just as quick and painless as possible because it's a beautiful day today and we want it to be a beautiful evening to get through it fast.
Yeah.
So, okay, next item on the agenda, public comment.
Yeah.
Has anyone heard anything from any community members that needs to be passed on to the board or the library director? No?
Now, will this go to the Grand County Library?
No.
It will not?
No.
So there's nothing that we talk about is applicable to the Grand County Library, correct?
No. We are our own county.
There is one thing. It's that interlocal agreement we have with them that we send
Right.
them money for, and that's it. And
Yeah.
we're taking care of that for the next couple of years. So
Okay.
Okay. All right, next item, business action, strategic planning survey draft. So that's where I came in. So last meeting, we had Heidi Fendrick from the state board come and give her strategic planning information to us. And she gave like a packet out of information that had a template of like what we could follow. And so I looked at both of the templates for the different libraries that she had presented, and I really liked the Redfield Carnegie Library one the best. That was the survey part of it. So I took that survey and I kind of tweaked it a little bit to be relatable to what our library might need. There was a couple of things that I left out that I was like, it's not really applicable to what we're doing. So if you can look on the packet right there, she talked about the 4 things on the minutes. Zach says that she discussed the 4 things that we need to do for our strategic planning process. The first one is creating a strategic planning committee. The second is gathering community input through surveys and stakeholder focus groups. The third is analyzing and synthesizing the data to create a strategic plan. And the fourth is implementing a plan to sharing it with the community. So I kind of switched the first and second one around. I think we need to start with the survey of what the community members, how they feel about our library system. And then I think we can go on to the first one and start creating the strategic plan. I don't know if that was just my thinking on how we should do that. So I typed this up. I'm not in any way an electronic, wizard. So I don't know how to make little boxes for like check marks and stuff. So if you've read through it, I feel like we need to the first part says the San Juan County Library wants to hear from you about what services and programs you use or want to see in the library. Please complete the survey and return it for a chance to earn a sweet treat. Gotta have an incentive, or otherwise people aren't going to be like, oh yeah, I don't want to do it. And I talked to Michaela about this, and she said we can also put this either online or physical copies in all of the libraries and the branches, and just have it available. Let all the librarians, kind of, I don't know, I feel like they can kind of push it. And whenever somebody comes in, will you fill out our survey? We'd like to hear how you feel about our library, that kind of thing. And Do you want me to go over each little line item, or did you guys read through it?
I read through it. Yeah, I thought it was great. Thanks for doing that,
Yeah.
Ramona. I think it'd be,
Okay.
I did.
obviously Michaela and Nicole know a lot more about what would be helpful, but I feel like this would give a lot of information about what the library is doing right and what it could do better. So I thought it was really well done.
Okay.
I
Awesome.
agree. And I
Matt?
think the paper copy is better because a lot of people are intimidated by computers like I am sometimes. I can get things done a lot faster when it's paper than I have to go in and find. So that's my opinion.
Okay. Nicole, what did you have to say?
I only had one suggestion.
Okay.
I don't know if we can make it into two or clarify at what is the best time for you to visit the library, and you have morning 9 to noon. We are not open until 11, the earliest at all of our branches and 12.
Mm.
So I'm
Right.
wondering if that's going to confuse them, or do we just leave it? And if it looks like we're getting a lot more people who are wanting to come earlier, we might look at that.
Yeah. When I was typing this up, I was about to change it to 11 o'clock, and I'm like, no, I want to see if there are people who want to have an earlier meeting, an earlier open time, or maybe an earlier closing time. If the time thing just isn't working for them.
If that's the case, I would maybe add and go 9 to 11, 11 to 2, like, so you have 4, because noon to 5 is a big span. And
Okay.
our patron, at least at Blanding, our patronage it changes quite a bit from noon to, like, yeah. Anyway, I think there needs to be them 4 little categories. So 9 to 11, and then 11 to 2, and then, so on and so forth.
Okay. And then 2 to 7.
2 to 5, and then 5
2
to
to
7.
5.
So you have 4
You have
different.
4 different.
Mhm.
Okay. 2 to 5 and 5 to 7.
I'm pretty sure I read over some minutes, but I don't remember seeing the survey. Can you email that to me again, please?
It was soon.
It's Heather.
It's in the packet. Did you get the packet, Heather?
I got minutes, and I got like the agenda, but and I know I read some minutes, but I don't remember seeing a survey.
So it's at the third part of the packet is the survey. When you look through it, let me get on here and see.
All I can find right now are some minutes and an agenda. Actually, I don't have the minutes. I have the Word document. So
Do you have 2 separate attachments to the email?
I think it's from you.
Oh, it
No,
would
this one would be from Michaela.
have
It's
been.
from Michaela. Oh yeah, you're right. It's from Michaela.
So
And
this one was sent out on June 7th. Michaela sent it out. And it says, library board members, please review the attached packet in preparation for tomorrow's meeting. I've also attached a minutes template for whoever's in charge of recording notes for the meeting. Let us know if you have any questions. Did you get that email?
I don't see that one, but I know I read minutes, but I don't remember seeing the survey, but I don't have it. I don't know if I deleted it.
Let me look and see if your name's on the list right here.
Sorry.
I'm just resending that to you right now.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry about that. I should have checked to see, but everybody's names are like on the hidden
I
part
know I
of
read some minutes, but
who
yours
they're
looked much
sent to.
extensive.
So,
Thank
yep,
you.
it doesn't look like you or Kelly have received that email. And
I'm looking at it now. In looking at the survey, a thought comes to me is how do we get people to want to come into the library and maybe give us some input? What do you think? Do we have any money where we could maybe advertise it on the local radio station or even in the San Juan Record? Just say, if you have an interest, please come in and visit with our staff and take the survey.
okay,
92.7 does some advertising for nonprofits.
okay. That's a good suggestion.
Yeah, I was just going to say there's some free slots that we could probably qualify for. It's just a matter of making time to, or figuring out who's going to contact them and what they'll put in there.
I know the radio ads can be incredibly expensive. Just
They have, what I'm talking about is not the ads, it's free public announcements that they have to make. So I know that somebody's talked to me before about there's some slots that were some things that resources we could use that don't cost more money.
Yeah, I'm just
Okay, we could do it.
if they have so many they can't fit us in, then we really have to consider juggling the budget to come up with probably $800 or so to do a radio ad.
Do you have a community blackboard where you pin notices up? How about there? You could pin up one copy and say, go to the nearest library or go to the library and fill it out. Would that work?
It helps a little, but I think if we do like our sidewalk boards, Michaela, and do something about come in, fill a survey out, get a sweet treat or something like that. That might be a better way to advertise on our Facebook pages. I think Jenny is getting us set up with an Instagram or something like that too, but social media and that board out on the sidewalk seems to do a little better than the bulletin board. Flyers a little, but
We do have like an ad. We have a laminated ad in the post office, the grocery store, the hardware store, all those that advertise our children's activities, the summer reading program, and then we're also doing a STEAM program one of the days of the week. So we do advertise in those locations, but it's usually to that kid audience that we can get to come in. So
yeah.
Yeah. I think posting it on each library's front door is good too. That's where I like to look when I go into each library. See the things that are happening.
I had one other suggestion, Ramona, on the survey on number 9.
Okay.
How important is each of the following library services to you? Somewhere have other, in case there's something that we don't have listed on there, they can put other, and then does that make sense? Because they're
Okay. So like as a last line item, you want to put other. I think I had that.
You have it. Please write any comment.
Yeah, I have that on number. Let me look really fast.
I think it's comments or issues, but that
Number
would
8.
make it, would make
Number 8
it
is kind of a, yeah.
right there where you're asking about, in case there's something a little more obscure that we're not thinking of. And I did look through it and I thought, yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. But if there's something that,
So you want to put that on the table? Is that what you're saying, to put other
yeah,
on the
table. And one thing that comes to my mind is the hot spots. And rather than add another one that says hot spots, just do a other where,
Okay. So that's what the hotspots would go under, like the free internet access and the Wi-Fi.
I would
anything.
do that different because it's a checkout item where they take it home.
Okay.
I think it's different. I know I looked at that and like, would it fit there? And it would as far as category, but as far as us, we're not paying for our internet or the hotspots. We have to pay for a portion and it's very time consuming. So it'd just be good to see
if they want that hotspot part.
how important it is.
Yeah.
So,
Are we going to continue the hotspots? I understood that we were going to slowly.
whittle them down from like 60 units to about 20. It's a lot more manageable, but they are incredibly popular. We do have a grant that covers 66%. I budgeted last year for us to cover the 4% that we are in charge of, that we are obligated to. And I just keep watching for grants that might continue to cover. It is still a little time consuming when we have any issues, but not like when we had 60 and I was trying to manage all 60 of them. So
Right. Okay. Did you happen to get that, Heather, that new email? Did it come through?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay. We're glad you could join us, Mac. We're getting nervous.
I know, sorry. Sorry, I'm late. This is running alongside Planning Commission as well, but I had a commissioner in my office. And they kind
Okay.
of take a lot of time sometimes, and so.
Okay. I don't see that you got the packet either. Do you want the packet?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Especially
Michaela,
the
can you
survey, I
send that
think.
to them?
I just resent it to the board group. So I'll double check and make sure you were in that.
On the survey, I haven't been able to review the survey itself. One of the things just always that's out there is budget, and the county, we were able to pick up kind of the increases in cost, capital improvement projects for this year, but it's not sustainable, and so we need to look at, a question is, is the public willing to fund more into the library system? It doesn't mean we're coming for a tax increase right now, but after the discussion that we had from our county clerk auditor and the fact that our funds on the centrally assessed has continued to take a huge hit, reducing the amount of funds that are available through that tax source to the county. That's one that also provides funds to the library as well. And so he kind of put us on notice that we needed a tax increase to do a truth in taxation to accept a higher certified rate. That will be maybe the same thing here. And so we need to just kind of start spreading the message.
So what
Of
kind
that.
of line item should we call it? Like, how should we word that as like a question?
I don't know. That's why I'm so glad you guys are having this discussion about, and it's literally, tomorrow we're not doing the tax increase, but are they willing to use more of their funds to support library
Okay.
services? I think for me, across the board in government, in wherever I've been, library services is one of those that the community they're willing to open up their pocketbooks for. It's something that's so important to communities. And I've talked about, how libraries are used as anchors to development and, kind of that downtown core. You have to have a library. We talk about it in Spanish Valley. How do you get a library there in the future? It's library services are critical. And especially when you look at low income socioeconomic communities, libraries are such a valued resource, but is the community willing to pay more for that service?
Okay. Maybe that's just what we should say. Are you willing to pay more for your library services?
Yes.
If it's necessary to have a tax increase or whatever. Go ahead, Nicole.
well, I was going to say, or you can word it due to something like due to higher costs. What library services would you not want or be willing to cut or not have
Yeah.
to fit the budget or something like that too?
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe that's a negative way of saying it, but that way in their mind, they're like, oh,
None. I don't want any cut.
come on.
Yeah, that's exactly.
I don't know.
Reverse psychology type. Yeah.
I really hate to ask for more taxes for anything, especially with such a stressed economy in this area. Like, I just feel like the taxes, we're already the highest in the state,
Per
our
capita.
county is,
Yeah.
and we already have the lowest average income. So I I would rather, my preference is to figure out how to make do, and hopefully the co-working space, hopefully we can have some more revenues coming in there, and with some of the things we're working on. But yeah, I really hate to ask actually even that question, because I feel like in our economic situation, that's probably the last thing. I mean, I just would prefer not to even ask for more.
I agree.
Now, 2 years ago, we did have that truth in taxation where the community did support a tax increase for the library services, just as a reminder. The county, once COVID hit, chose not to enact that. And so at one time they did, even though I would have to say the economic conditions have not increased or improved even since years and years and years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was before Nicole and I were in our positions.
Yes.
That was presented and approved. But that was right. She and I were just put into office right about the time that COVID hit. And
Yep.
And I just don't believe in squeezing more money out of a stressed population.
Okay.
And
So
now
if we
I'm not in charge. Nicole is, so that's just
good.
my 2 cents.
We had this meeting, yeah, like Mac was saying, we had this meeting a while back where we did discuss, and we agreed as a board that we should go ahead and have the increase and try to get more of that funding. And then, like he said, COVID hit, and then we're like, no, never mind, forget what we said.
Yep.
So I think on number 7, it says, what do you value most about the library? If we find out what people really like, then we can decide as a board, let's keep that, and let's get rid of some of this other stuff
Yeah.
that isn't really necessary. And we could even say, would you be willing to spend more to support your library, but maybe spend more in not a taxation way, but spend more as a, I don't know, private donation or
Oh, yeah.
whatever.
Friends of the library board or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So be thinking on that. What do you think, Zach, Heather, Kelly?
I was at the meeting that Mac's talking about with the truth and taxation hearing, and I think it was a pretty small request, if I remember correctly, for the library specifically. A few more dollars per year for property owners for property taxes or something like that. So if that would make a huge difference in terms of what the library is able to do, it seems like it's kind of a small ask in the scheme of things. Even with, I agree with everything Michaela's saying, but if it's only a few more dollars a year and it enables the library to do much better programming, that seems like it is something that I would support. And
I have a question.
Go ahead, Marjorie.
Is a fundraiser out of the picture? Could we get donors to provide things and have a fundraiser and with maybe a goal of $5,000 or something?
What do you think, Mac? Is that a legality thing or is that a possibility?
I don't. So let me answer that in an opposite way. I don't have any policy that's enacted right now prohibiting fundraising. And so there's your answer in an opposite matter. It's like,
there's a chance.
It's the hardest thing because, and this is me with school as well, as like I pay taxes into the school districts and I have a lot of kids and I support them in all their efforts. And then you're going to send this thing out where I've got to send my kids around and sell cookies for fundraisers. I'm like,
no, I'm thinking more of like a barbecue.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But then
an event where
that same thing. It's like, now you're asking me for funds on this other side outside of the taxes, I'd rather pay more in taxes, but I don't know. But there is that mantra out there that has been hard. In Davis County with the library system there, we took donations. We never made it an effort on the county's or county employees' behalf to seek funds through fundraising. Now, that's not saying that individuals or board members can't do it on their own and go out and fundraise. It's just never been good to have county employees out soliciting the public for funds outside of their normal mechanisms. And so, but we, you know, in Davis County, we did have donors that would donate books and art and, you know, things that we have here, same thing, but never a dollar stipend, especially on employees' behalf type thing.
Nicole, you have a question?
Well, I just have a thought. I'm kind of the opposite of Mac. I would rather be able to, rather than my taxes increase, rather be able to decide where my money's going to go that I value the most.
Yeah.
And so when asked for certain donations to certain entities, or I'm like, yeah, I really believe in this. I really believe in the libraries. I really appreciate what they do. I know years past before my time, they had a big jar, a huge jar that they wanted to buy the first disc cleaning machine. And it was just there and someplace where you could, you know, stick a few pennies or a dime or a dollar or whatever. And they were able to raise a couple $1,000s that way.
Yeah.
I don't know. A barbecue sounds like a lot. I was even thinking if we just had put, if you want to donate, this is where you can donate. Keep in mind what these things, and maybe that could be a question is, would you rather donate or have a tax increase?
Yeah.
I don't know. Those are my thoughts, but
I know that there's one city.
I also think it was a pretty low ask on
Yeah.
the library's part. We already don't have very much that we get for the library fund through taxes. I mean,
How much of an increase would that mean with the truth in taxation if that was to be proposed?
Ooh, I'd have to go back. I don't know.
I don't have that off the top of my. It was wasn't it less than a percentage?
Yeah, it was small. It was, I
Like
think overall, it was like 120 a household for the whole thing. It wasn't an enormous amount. It was literally the library is eating into their savings. We can't keep on doing this. We just need that little amount to get over from eating into our savings. But that was almost 3 years ago. I've had COVID since then.
It was more like 4 years ago, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel both. Michaela and I sat down, and one of the first things we talked about when I went towards I want to get us where we are not bleeding out of the savings just by, I'm very fiscally conservative.
Mhm.
And so that was one of the first things. And I felt like we did a fantastic job with that. And we still are very, very careful. And I watch that budget like a hawk, and every dime that's spent, and I review it several times a month. And so one thing we have going for us is that we can show how much we've cut, and that appeals to the taxpayers. And that, well, this actually come into a conversation as part of my report later, has how important fiscally it is to have that money in savings, because it works for us, especially when interest rates are up. And we'll talk a little bit more about it then, because right now we're earning way more interest in that savings than we have in years past. And so that's another incentive for us to save money so that we can make capital improvements and maybe one day have a little library, you know, in Spanish Valley or in another southern branch. I mean, that would be long term, because you really have to save a lot, because then you've got to man it and staff it. And I don't know. Anyway, we can talk about that more, but it's a hard ask when people are struggling to make ends meet, and many times they're not. So
I agree. I think it's better to cut stuff that we don't use and keep the good stuff that we are using.
Always, yeah.
Could I make a motion on that?
A motion on what?
Cutting stuff or
No, asking that we consider the truth in taxation, so that we can make the library viable.
I would
I-
just, we were just on the survey aspect is to me, I think it's just a good question to pose to the public. It's not necessarily saying
Yeah.
that right now we're going in to look at, we still have to get the tax data from the tax commission to see, really where we're at. So I don't think we're quite yet pulling that trigger. You don't really go into that suggested until November when we're getting ready to set our budgets for this next year. That's when you've got to make that determination whether or not you're going to go for an adjustment in your certified tax rate. So in November is when you consider it. You let the tax commission know, and then that really doesn't take place until June of the next year. And so we still have up until, so you're almost 6 months till you even have to think those lines. But I think when you look at, and to Nicole's credit and our staff's credit, they've been able to rearrange their budget into a manner to where we've actually put money into their savings the last couple of years, or at least last year. And we were able to use the remaining funds from the previous year as rollover funds to start the base budgets for the next year. And so even though we may not have been sticking money into the savings, we've had savings that utilized next year's budget to help offset increased areas of budget. But just knowing where we're at with the new wages that were approved, and where we used a different bucket of money to pay for that. If all of that goes away, the library is not sustainable on its own without this other cash injection. And I will try to ride that as long as I can. Some counties, just as a practice, and this isn't all counties, but some counties go through truth and taxation every year. It's just a part of what they do. There's, new growth that comes along in the property taxes, and they go for it. Even though if it's a minor percentage, they go through truth and taxation to capture that. Instead of waiting 10 years and doing a substantial tax increase, they're public. They know that, every year they're going to go for a higher certified rate. But you try to apply that principle in everything Michaela talked about. That's a different ask here in San Juan County than it is in other counties. Here in this county, not 100% of our citizens pay property tax. And literally a lot of these services are born on just that half. And so there's just a little bit different than other counties.
So since we have new board members, I think what I'm hearing from Kelly is that he would like to have that information that we discussed at the previous meeting. And
So
I would have
we
to
can get
do
that. Yeah, that
Yeah,
won't take. Let's just ask for
Yeah.
it. We can get you that.
Yeah, and I'd have to pull the minutes and everything from the courthouse vault to see what we
Yeah.
discussed in previous meetings. So,
And it should be online but we can search for it and get you the
Okay.
documents.
is that something that you guys are interested in to have before our budget meeting that comes in October, correct, Nicole? It's in October,
Yes.
is our budget? Yeah. Is that something that you guys want to look at just to see? Yeah, Zach wants it. Okay. Kelly, are you interested in getting the information on that so we can review it and then then you can see why we made the decision that we made. Go ahead, Heather. Oh, that's a thumbs up. Okay. Okay, I will look into that and get with Mac and we'll figure out what information, and we'll probably just send it out in an email. Hopefully we can get everybody's emails. We're so sorry about that. I should have double checked that, Michaela. I just was like, okay, when all the emails are sent and then it has the hide button, I just assume that everybody's in the hidden part of the email. And so I never even thought to check to see if no one got the packet today. I'm like, oh, dang. So apparently we didn't have everybody get the packet. So you guys didn't get to
Yeah.
review it. And the
Like
awesome
most
survey.
did.
today.
But the newer people definitely,
Yeah.
got-
So we'll get,
so.
yeah. Okay. So this is just a rough draft of the survey. I like these suggestions that Nicole's giving. I think we do need to know about, have a funding question that Max said, and also the time slot thing. That one I really like debated over, because I'm like, I remember when it was open earlier and closed sooner. And so I'm curious to see what people really like. And the hotspot part of the table, that will be good.
And
That's
you
more-
know, the expanded hours, like Monticello was open earlier, but that was what, I mean, that affects budget a big time. I think
Yeah.
those extra, so that was part of how we reached some goals and were able to have some savings.
Yeah.
Was that we figured out a time slot that would cost less.
Yeah, be more affordable. So again, this isn't a set in stone thing. This is just what we want to hand it out there to the public, just to get their, their thoughts and their feelings on what I mean, maybe people are like, no, I don't use the library. I'm not don't want anything to do with it. So if you guys have any other suggestions of what you want added or deleted from it, then at the next meeting, we can maybe decide on a final and then get it printed out and sent to everybody.
I think it would still be a good idea to add something like, which services would you cut if the
Yeah.
library was not able to fiscally support
Yeah.
all of
Mhm.
these? And
Okay.
that gets them thinking about that. And then maybe they, I don't know. I think that at least gets it going in that direction.
I like that thought. And then if you did a list of which ones they can check, and then on there, I would put on there, or none of them at all. And so
And then
with
put
that,
that as
with that
no.
answer, you're going to know
Yeah.
that they don't want any services cut.
Okay. All right. I have that on here. Then I'll get with Michaela. Can I just get with you and we can brainstorm a little bit more on that and then have
Yes,
a better question for that? Okay. All right. Anything else on the survey that you guys noted?
Now, are they
The
planning
chocolate
on
thing.
doing this as a Google form or?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mac, I was going to set it up as a Google form, but then we were going to have a paper version too.
Yeah.
A lot of our patrons that come in are older school. I mean, we definitely have the new school. Technology's great, but we're going to try to hit both.
Okay.
I'm with Marlene. I like the paper version. I don't like trying to get on and figure out how to, X the box on the electronic thing. I just would get lost. And so if there's a paper and if a librarian comes up to me and says, okay, if you would like to fill out this survey, we'd appreciate you filling this out. And, here's a little treat at the end or whatever. I would totally do that, but that's just me. Some people like the electronic way.
Yeah.
So
Mine is
Ramona,
more administrative time.
yeah,
Yeah.
we were going to, I was thinking that we would set it up and then put a link to it so that you can just easily open it. In fact, it'll probably be on our card catalog computer so that a person could just go through and fill it out. That way we can offer both. So we'll
Yeah.
have a paper and that. We'll say, if you want to do it, it's right here. I've got it right open, a tab open for it.
Yeah.
And, or you can do the paper.
I think you can do, instead of a link, a QR code. A lot of us are familiar with QR code nowadays.
Yeah, what's that? What are those,
Yeah.
Mac?
It's like you go to a restaurant and it's all on QR. The menus are QR code. It took me the longest time. I'm like, my kids help me. And so
I know. My kids are like, Mom, do you not know what this is? And I'm like,
It's exactly-
no, I don't. I don't know how these QR codes work.
can you
I'm
just
sorry.
give me a menu, please?
Yes. Give
In
me the
fact,
paper.
I could even just do a little bookmark too with the QR code.
Yeah.
So that we just will have all three options
Yeah.
right
Perfect.
here on
Good.
this computer, here on paper, or here's a QR code on a bookmark. And I love making up bookmarks.
Yeah.
Okay, so an assignment for all of our board members. I want you to read through the survey again after we're done with the meeting because you might not have read through it sufficiently while we're talking. I can't do two things at once. So read through it again. If you have a suggestion on like what we've talked about the tax increase or the fiscal situation, if you have like a good question that you think could be included, then email it to either me or Nicole. I hope y'all have my email. It's honeydews@frontiernet.net. Email it to me and say, this is how I think the question should be worded. And then again, if there's anything on one of the tables that you think needs to be added or even deleted, if there's something on here that's like, nah, I don't see that that's valuable in any way, then we can take it off. If we need to specify a question a little bit better, like number 7, what do you value most about the library? It's a pretty generic question. Maybe we need to like put a specific thing in there. What do you value most about, the service of blah, 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 or something like that. So that's you guys' homework. Go through it. We're gonna finish off and hopefully on our July 27th meeting. I want to have this like done and ready to be submitted to all the libraries so we can move on with the whole strategic planning thing. Is that good? Everybody good with that? Thumbs up. Good job. Thank you, Heather. Okay.
I don't have mine.
Does anyone have anything else they want to add to that? Okay, we're going to move on to the next item. Number 3, the director's report by our Director Perkins. And yep, we'll go to there.
Okay. Just to go through some of the things that we've done, I put a lot of detail in this because a lot of times I don't know about you guys, but you go about your business and you don't think about everything. And my husband and I were having this discussion the other day about how you don't realize how much or what a person does until you're in their shoes. And I remember as a little girl, after coming home from school, probably 7 or 8 years old, being really stupid and saying to my mom, well, what do you do all day anyway? Because she wanted me to do the dishes or something. Very ignorant of me. And she was like, oh, well, wouldn't you like to know? So the next few weeks, she was very good to include me in her life and what she did do every day. And I was very grateful for that experience. And not that any of you have ever acted like I don't do anything, but I'm like, I have had a few people who kind of indicated as to, well, what really do you do? I see Jenny and your staff out here. I see Michaela and her staff, but what do you do? Anyway, so just to assure you that I am working really hard for that salary that you are and the job. I thought I'd better include more details in the future of this, but also so that you're better informed. So we've continued to collaborate with the Montezuma Creek Community Center Library to increase their collection development, which gives the patrons that are San Juan County residents there access to the online digital library. Due to our partnership with the Beehive Consortium, or actually, I don't know if it's called that anymore, but it's the state digital. The Monument Valley, I put Montezuma Creek, and I'm already catching. It's supposed to be Monument Valley. Gosh, I made a mistake in that right off the get-go. Anyway,
you're working with the Montezuma Creek still too, though, to give them the.
Oh yeah, specifically the community center library in Monument Valley.
Okay.
We gave them a big box of the 14-digit barcodes, and then they send us a list of who to add onto as a patron in our system because they are county residents. And then that in turn, it gives them access to that online library. So that's another way that we've found that we can serve the community without really any increase in cost. We also, between Monticello and Blanding, went through our many boxes of donated materials and just pulled out the very best, most recent copies or classics that they were requesting. And then Samantha from Monument Valley came and picked those all up, and we ended up donating over 15 boxes of those materials. And then we're also able to donate some requested items that they had as well. And then as a partnership, we've been promoting each other's programs. I've been sending out the flyers to the other libraries to put up, because they have some fantastic, really neat things that they're offering right there at their center. So if somebody wants to make the effort to go out that way, they can make a plan to do that. And then in turn, they can let their patrons know what we're offering. I recently completed in April and turned in the annual report to the state library, and they, because of this, we get a benchmark report that goes over each area that shows if we are complying or quality, and we receive those benchmark. We will be receiving that benchmark report in the next few months. Heidi Fendrick will go over that with me from the state. And this report is part of our recertification, which is coming up. The annual report is also tied to our CLEF grant that we receive from the state library at the beginning of each year. Those CLEF funds are what really enable us to do a lot of our outreach programming, and they're very specific as to what I can spend them on. Our chairs have become very in our community center at Blanding, because it is so often used and so heavily patronized, that the chairs. Yes.
Will you tell our new board members what the CLEF grant is, in case
yes, it's the community. Let me think. That's an acronym for something. Hold on. There's so many acronyms I can't ever remember them. No, what is it called? It is the Community Library. I can't think of what it is. Anyway, it's a fund. It's basically outreach that we can use for specific things it's a grant from the state library that we get at the beginning of each year. And that money is just, they have a formula depending on how many programs you do, how many people attend, how broad your programming is, what your budget is. Are you I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it. And then they take that formula, calculate, and decide how much we get. This year we received $7,190. And then I have to do another report on exactly what we spent that on, and then give narratives. And so I got to watch throughout the year for how did this impact our community. And then if I have any like special stories, something that happened that touched a patron or changed their life, they're always looking for that. And so that always helps. When I'm always looking for those kinds of things. And then I'll ask Michaela if she has anything, that she's noticed. And so then I've got to include that in the report. And so I'm really mindful of any of those personalized stories, or I should not say stories, but experiences that our patrons are having directly tied back to those CLEF funds. This past year, they opened it up so that we could buy certain types of furniture, which I was really grateful for, because our chairs are really bad, and they were like at least 20 years old, if not older. And so because of that, I was able to purchase chairs. And I asked at the end of last year, the different libraries, is there something specifically furniture-wise that you guys really feel like you need? And I think the only thing Michaela asked for was a shelf, and I don't even think you've purchased that yet, but it's in the budget. I've got it all budgeted. Anyway, so the annual reports tied to the CLEF grant that we received from the state library at the beginning of each year. I'm currently working on our recertification report, which is due at the end of June. The CLEF due sometime around September. The annual, we've already completed. It was due at the end of April. And the recertification processor are required to be able to recertify under the state library umbrella. Is there any questions up until this point on any of that?
So inside of your manual, you have this little section that says Utah Public Library Trustee Manual. If the new trustees have looked through that on this, and mine's an older version, so I don't know exactly what page or anything it's on, but there's this Appendix B that says Community Library Enhancement Fund, CLEF, and then it gives all of the details of what the grant is and why libraries can get that. So for, your afternoon enjoyment reading, you can read through that. You can read through your whole manual if you want. It's like, 100 pages long. So it's good reading. I did it once. Didn't want to go back and do it again. So, but if you wanted to know more about what that is, what she has to fill out and do, that's where that is.
Yeah, it's a really big, time-consuming gathering of information, and they kind of change what they want different for every year. So you don't always, they'll say, oh, now we want to know all this information, so you have to retroactively figure it out. It's a huge thing. I'm so grateful it's Nicole and not me.
Huh?
Well, you help me too with figures. I have you gather stuff, but one thing I've tried to do, but like Michaela says, they kind of change things on you mid-year, or is include everything or most everything I need, or not most, but a lot of what I need in the statistics that I'm gathering every month from all the libraries. And then the next year I find out that that's some whole new other statistic they need. So I haven't been tracking that. So I've got to go back and gather all that statistics for all the statistics for that for the 5 libraries to include in that. So the next item, I want to do a real quick review of the year-to-date budget, expenses, and revenue, and go over that PTIF fund, which I think the acronym is Public Treasurers Investment Fund. Matt could probably correct me on that if I've got that wrong. So
Yeah,
there.
that's right. Correct.
Okay. So Michaela, I don't know if we can skip down to where, well, you know what? Let's not worry about it. But each month the clerk's office sends, I believe, all the department heads their detailed ledger of what they're spent and what it, and is it, and I always check it to see, make sure items are coded under the correct place. And then it also gives me a detailed ledger of revenue, showing what, making sure that when I take in a grant check that it was put in the right place and it's coded there and it's posted. One thing that I've been watching really close over the last few years is under interest and earnings. And that is page 12, Michaela, if you want to go to that. Yep, right there. Oh, well, maybe yours is different. No, one more up. Yeah. There it is. That's a PTI. Oh, whoops. Go down a little more if it'll let you. Right there. So if you can see where it says interest earnings, just the first 3 months, Glennis Pearson is our treasurer. And I called the clerk and asked why we didn't have the entries for April or May. And I actually just got my May report today. So what you're looking at is the end of April report. And Glennis hasn't done the journal entry yet. So they have to wait for her to do that before they can get me what that interest is. But already this year we've earned, so the last year total for the 12 months of interest we earned $6,095.38. This year, we've already, with just the 3 months, not including the 2 months that will be on there, we've earned $4,445.97. So we're another month and a half, we'll have what we earned the whole year last year. And that is because we have that savings in there, and it is working for us, and it's earning interest. And so it is so important that we build that so that that money is there. And then the more we can save, the more that interest, that money that's sitting there works and creates that interest that goes back into our library fund. And so I guess that's one good thing about interest rates being up, and we might as well take advantage of it since it's a reality. So I was looking at years past because I've been studying past years. Back in 2020, our PTIF fund, and I don't have it in this packet, for the total year was $4,122. That was the end of 2020. The year end of 2021, our total PTIF, now thanks to COVID, I'm imagining, our total PTIF was $1,468. Well, that's also affected by the fact that we had very little money in our savings to even draw interest. And then the end, like I already said, end of 2022, we earned $6,095. So that's my big spiel on why we need to build, another reason why we need to build that fund, and just be very, very careful with that money. Any questions up until this point that you have? Okay, and I don't know, Michaela, I just, like I said, I just got the report today from the clerk's office, and right now 41.67% of the fiscal year has expired, and our budget, we are at 36.72%. So we are under again where we need to be. So we're under that 41.67%. So any other questions on anything before I move on? Okay. The next thing, new legislation. So February 2022, there was this sudden burst of information coming to me from the other directors and the state librarian about a bill that was called at that time HB 471. So I'm going to just give a quick history and background of that. The representative of that bill had not really, from what I understand, had not reached out to the major stakeholders such as the state library to get their input. But once we found out about it, the state library, and they got the information out to us and other librarians, there was a lot of conversation taking place between all of us, all of the directors and the state library about what this would mean for libraries. And what started out as something pretty broad and going to be very expensive, especially for our county, it was reduced. So what it is now called, and it was passed, is called HB 284. And because of conversations that we were having with each other and that the state librarian would convey back to the bill, the person that was representing, that was putting the bill to the floor, the sponsor of the bill, a lot of changes were made. But what it essentially is now requiring is that if our county does not have a criminal a background check policy in place, that we as a library have to have a policy in place that is written or approved by the library board, and that would require any, I'm going to go through these. I'm going to just do this. Okay. This version of this bill is what we ended up talking and conversing with Representative Johnson about. And this is what they came up with. These are the summary points. It prohibits a public library from receiving state funds unless the library adopts a criminal background check policy. It's very similar to the requirement that we have for adopting the internet policy. And it's actually part of that internet policy. They just, instead of doing, it looks like what they did, instead of putting it in its own bill, they just included it in that internet bill, and just revised HB 284. The bill includes language that a city or / county background check policy is acceptable. If you take a look at the bill, the relevant language is on lines 101 and 103. And Michaela, if you can scroll down to that item, I think it's, what item is that? It's past my whole report and goes to, it's after the ledger, the detailed ledger. Yeah, okay, if you'll go to the second page, the relevant language is on line 101 through 103. But I'm going to go ahead, if you guys don't mind, you ladies and gentlemen don't mind, I'm going to read through the bill, what was added to it. Just, it'll be the second to last page and the last page.
Like 20.
Oh, do you know what page on our thing it
Oh,
is?
it's 28, page 28.
Okay.
Sorry, it's not 28, 29, right there.
Yeah.
Okay, go up just a titch. Just, yep. Okay. So let's start with line 94, criminal background check policy required, scope and content, dissemination. As used in this section, minor means an individual who's under 18 years old. Public library means a library established under section 9-7-402 or 9-7-501, which that applies to us. Qualifying position means any paid or unpaid employment position with a public library, including a volunteer position that involves significant contact with minors as determined by the public library's library board. And that is very key there. So you as a board will determine what is significant contact with a minor. Qualifying prospective employee means an individual who is 18 years old or older and applies for a qualifying position with a public library. State funds may not be provided to a public library unless the public library implements a criminal background check policy that A, meets the requirements of subsection 3, and B, is adopted by the library board in an open meeting or the county or city in which the public library is located. The criminal background check policy shall identify each qualifying position with the public library, require each qualifying prospective employee to submit to a background check. And then the next page, check as a condition of employment in a qualifying position, establish procedures for gathering, submitting, and reviewing criminal background checks for qualifying prospective employees before making any offer of employment. Disqualifying a qualifying prospective employee from employment based on information received as a result of a criminal background check, and allow a qualifying prospective employee to respond to information received as a result of a criminal background check. Ensure that a qualifying prospective employee who is disqualified from employment because of information obtained through a criminal background check receives written notice of the reasons for the disqualification and an opportunity to respond to the reasons following the procedures established under subsection 3C III and include an effective date that is stated in the criminal background check policy. The criminal background check policy shall be distributed to qualifying prospective employees and posted in a prominent location in the public library. A criminal background check policy adopted by a library board shall be reviewed by the library board at least every 3 years, just like we do with our internet policy. Within appropriations made by the legislature for this purpose, the state library board shall reimburse, and this is an important change they made, a county of the 4th, 5th, or 6th class, and a city of the 4th, 5th, and 6th class for the cost of conducting criminal background checks under this section. And this bill does take effective, the effective date is July 1st, 2024. So I'm trying to get way ahead of the game, of the curve. Mac is ahead of the curve because he's already doing some legwork, from what I understand. And so what changed, a lot of things. I'm not going to go into everything that changed, but it was much more going to be up to the state library to decide a lot of this, where now it's giving us local control more. And so that was very important. Another important part was I was very concerned about the cost this was going to be to us. And it was just 5th and 6th, the original proposal, or one of the original proposals would be that if you were 5th or 6th class, then your county could be subsidized for this. But since our conversation and concerns that we expressed, they are now including 4th. We are a 4th class county, I believe, as of 2021. So unless that's changed, we are 4th class and we are included in being reimbursed by the state library for those background checks. So that's just something that that we all need to be thinking about. I would like to have a rough draft up and ready to go for us to discuss by our September meeting, and just have it out there so we can be not feeling rushed. We can take time to let it morph into what the library board would like it to be. And then I believe we will need to take that to the commissioners, even though I don't think it says commissioners on here, because our commissioners do need to approve all our policies. Library, it will need to, I am assuming will need to go to them. Mac, is there anything else that you'd like to add, or something I've misstated or got wrong?
No, it's kind of weird, just in general, that thought that we have to background our check employees, but
Yeah.
when you look at the overall system, there are definitely some systemic problems that have happened in libraries, not here, but up north. And you kind of see this across the nation as well. Kids are seen as being vulnerable, and there are just those adults that don't care and they look for these volunteer opportunities. And it's just unfortunate, the world that we live in, that this is even applicable. But we have reached out to the state of Utah background and check system that does, typically these are only have to be ran through the sheriff's office, where you fingerprint and send it in. Where this law has kind of changed, as well as vulnerable adult programs are also included in some of these changes, that we have to do background checks for those. So then it gets into our senior services as well. Those people that are taking out Meals on Wheels, things like that, are going into these individual adult or vulnerable adult homes. We've got to do the background checks for them as well. And so I'm hoping that the cost for that, if we can get approved as a county being the entity that runs these searches through human resources, that we can just do it at the time of hiring employees, no different than what the sheriffs do as they get new officers in their department. Then we'll just treat it as that manner. And then, so I'm hoping the costs are pretty minimal to run these, but we're just starting on I have the application printed out. Unfortunately, the Bureau of Criminal Identification background check applications they're lengthy, and so I was hoping to get it done, but we do have that application and everything that we'll be submitting to cover this.
Thank you, Mac. Also, I don't know if, I'm sure I read it in there somewhere, but that includes not just new employees, but those that are already in place once this takes effect. Is that?
Yes.
So I'm really glad I didn't ever remove that tag from the mattress because, you know.
Yeah, the state come back and they had mentioned, just those that are in story time, those employees that are, and I'm like, that, we're so small, that's everybody, that's all of us. And so, it's the volunteers that we have, it's our part-time help, it's our staff. And so it's just everybody.
Well, but I do want to say I disagree with that a little bit, just because it does give quite a bit of leeway to the library board to determine what extensive. I would push back a little on that, saying I think it is just those that are presenting story hour, because that's not all of us, and probably the head librarian of each, or the librarian at each branch, because you are there alone at these other branches when kids come in. But I don't think it necessarily extends to everybody, but I'm fine. I mean, I'm just putting that back because the board is the one that determines.
Yeah.
Line 101 through 103, it does, they are the ones that determine what does extensive, contact with
Those
a child.
kids. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was, the language of this was monitoring. Like, I was going to have to monitor all of my employees 24/7. There's absolutely 100% no way that was feasible. And a lot of this, once this sponsor of the bill started getting feedback, he was really good to respond and say, yeah, I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that. And I didn't think about that. But it really, we should have been brought in before 2 weeks before it was supposed to go. Anyway, so. Okay. Any questions about that before we move on?
I just need some clarification.
Okay.
So has this bill passed?
Yes.
And this
Yes.
is all of the information that they want the libraries to implement.
Yes.
Do the libraries not currently already have their employees have a background check? Is that not part of the hiring process?
No.
It's not?
Nope. Not if
Okay.
fingerprinting. We do a
Surprising.
driver's record background check, but we do not do a criminal.
So does this need to be a specific policy or added to in our manuals, we have a volunteers policy. Does that need to go into that, or does it need to be its own separate policy?
It'll be separate. It will need to be its own separate policy that is reviewed, like how we have the internet policy.
Correct. And this, we have the volunteers policy that we reviewed just last September. So do we need to throw that out and then redo the whole volunteer and employee policy? No?
This doesn't take effect until next July. We have a
Correct.
year. So we probably have to revamp that a little bit to throw in. If the library board decides that is an extensive, I personally don't feel like we need to do that with our volunteers. But ultimately, it's up to you as a board to decide if that should include them. I think it's one more hassle that we have to put our volunteers through. And we know our volunteers really, I can see where this is more needed in a big city, but in rural Utah, in our community, we know our volunteers really, really well. And we already wouldn't agree for them to be there if we didn't know them. And they're never alone with the children. But that's just my opinion. I just would hate to put that one more thing.
I think that's where the policy comes in, because if you have somebody that's on the sexual register and we're not looking at it, and they're even in close proximity to a kid, and a member of the public knows that and brings up that concern, even if they're not alone, just the fact that they're there can be problematic. And I don't know, I think the extensiveness this is where Nicole will have to weigh in, is if the volunteers aren't in story time that much, that they're just kind of in and out, if they're not the ones that are participating in the actual story time, then it may be a little bit different. If they're just minimally there, in and out, that may be a little bit different. But I know that I've never looked up an employee on the sexual register to see if they're there. This is kind of those preventative measures for that.
This is,
Yeah. Go
hi,
ahead.
this is, I have a question.
Okay.
Do we have any reporting policy that's included for employees? It's mandatory they report any incidents of abuse or anything that seems a little bit strange. Is there any requirements that if, let's say you had an employee who witnessed an incident, is there anything that requires them to report that in a mandatory fashion to the police or someone in authorities? Do we have that in place?
We have the sheriff's office phone number on the front of every employee monitor here. And our people, like my staff has a lot of common sense. They always, if there's anything weird, they love to tell me all about it. So, and then we have if there's something that needs to be recorded, we had an incident. Oh, somebody, an irate patron, and we wrote up and had several witnesses write up exactly what they saw. I mean, nothing came of it. There was just one person that was particularly grumpy one day, which is rare. We mostly have three.
I was thinking more of anybody, if an employee, there's an incident with anybody under the age of 18, they have to mandatorily report it to the authorities.
I'd like to chime in on that just a little bit. As a mandatory reporter, you're held liable if anything happens to a child and you do not report it to the proper authorities. It's not your job to follow through and investigate, but it is your job to report it. So I think what Kelly is asking is whether the state makes librarians and the volunteers and employees in libraries, if they fall under the same umbrella the teachers do, as mandatory reporters. So I think that's the question.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. As of right now, we do not have a policy in place. As from what I understand, the state does not require the librarians to be mandatory reporters. That is what was one thought why this bill, part of the thought, from what I understand, that this bill came about was because school teachers and others that are dealing with children quite often have to have criminal background checks. It kind of brought librarians and staff from the library under that umbrella. Although our patronage is vastly different than just dealing with children, and we don't deal with one-on-one a lot like school teachers do. So no, there is not a policy that we currently have, and no, there is not a state requirement for librarians to mandatorily report. I think it might be worth exploring. I personally like the fewer. I don't know. I can see pros and cons to it, so it's a good discussion to have. If you want to decide to make that a policy, or have the library have a policy where we, like Michaela said, we already are doing incident reports. The problem I think that might come from this is we do not go around and monitor each child 24/7. There are parts of the library that we can't see, and we don't have time to go. There's library, there's a yard and the grounds around the library that we can't go around and monitor. And we've had things that have happened out on the grounds. that we probably could have been liable for, or a parent could have pushed saying, well, you should have seen that. I think you did see that. And we didn't see it. And of course, when we saw it and knew that it happened, or when we heard about it, usually it was another child coming in to report to us, we immediately went and took care of it and put a stop to it. At one incident that I can think of is the child was curbed out. It wasn't even on the library property. It was on city where on the and the child was curbed. And thankfully he didn't have any permanent damage, stitches or lost teeth or broken bones, but he was pretty beat up and bruised. I did not see that. And I don't have the staff to have someone out there on the grounds to monitor that outside. And a lot when the parents come in and sign that permission form for a child to come use the library, first, we do have a policy of age. You have to be at least 8 years or older to come alone to the library. Anyone under that age has to be accompanied by a sibling that is 12 years or older, or an adult. And so we do have that in place. And when the parent signs that, we say right in there where they sign, your child is not going to be monitored 24/7. I mean, that just opens up a whole nother. It is very different from schools in a lot of ways. Anyway, my point is, like we already do, if there's something we see, if we have that happens, we immediately take it, we address it immediately. And we have had to, and like Michaela says, we have the number. Well, ours is a little different. We just have it right there at the front desk, at each front desk computer, where the staff knows what number to call immediately. And we've had to use it a number of times, unfortunately. But anyway, I mean, this is something that is worth definitely discussing and thinking about, and things that we need to discuss, things that mostly what we need to worry and be discussing right now is this policy that's going to have to go into effect next year regarding criminal background checks and who's required to get one. And so where we are a fourth class county, it would all be covered by the state library. So that's another thing to take into account as you all are kind of contemplating that. So any other, did I answer that about the policy, your question, Kelly? Then some.
It's not answering. Huh. Are all employees or volunteers required, or I should say just the volunteer, I asked the question, are all volunteers required to have a background check?
Nobody's required to have background check right now.
Okay.
And then when this is enacted, the board will determine how much,
How extensive that is.
how extensive it needs to be. And I would say we don't want the expense of, like, for example, my parents came and did music for the field trips groups. They had their teachers with them, and any parents that were attending the field trip, plus a librarian at all times. And we just don't want to not be able to have guest performers or whatever come and do a thing that's fully witnessed and attended by, all sorts of adults that are already have the background check. We wouldn't want to, so we'd want to be sane about it. And the reason that it's being left up to the boards is so that it can be sane. Like, you guys can say, okay, we're going to want definitely anybody who's over child programming that's an employee. And maybe in the policy we state there has to be a background approved librarian at every children's event, which of course we already do. So if they're there, then the boards decided that's going to cover our policy, that we're going to make sure that we have got somebody, this is how we do it or whatever. And this is the extent that we're going to require, knowing that our budget is limited and that we're trying to make sure that we have, that we want to be sane about it, you know, like,
Well, Michaela, it won't come out of our budget because because we are a fourth class. So monetarily, it doesn't really cost us anything. But if you think about taxpayer money, it does. We do pay taxes to the state of Utah. And so maybe we don't feel it immediately. So we're like, yeah, let's go crazy. Let's have anybody who steps foot into that library, who is a volunteer or staff or anything, let's get them have a background check. Eventually it does cost. And not that needs to be the number one concern is the cost, because we do want to protect children, number one. But it also is going to be very time wise. You're going to have to be real careful about, you know, someone being able to just show up and volunteer in the next few weeks, because I imagine it's going to take a little bit of time to get those background checks. Or will it? I don't know, because we haven't had to do it. So that's another thing we're going to have to, how far ahead are we going to have to plan? Again, I feel very comfortable with the people that we do have. And like our volunteers for Story Hour, they read the stories, and like one's a grandma that comes with her grandkids anyway. And so she comes and then she does the craft with the kids. So at what point do I say, okay, now you're not a volunteer anymore. Now you are grandma, or, you know, I don't know. It's just, I don't know.
It's crazy. That's the hard part. And I think that's where the board's going to have to look at it and decide. A lot of libraries are now tied with senior centers. And so they have the senior center story time, which will be individuals with individual kids in the libraries reading. And so sometimes you try to pass a law for the whole entire state and it doesn't apply to our volunteers and how we utilize volunteers that come in. I don't think in no means or no effort does this put restrictions on those special events that come in and, you know, that we utilize. I think it's more those that are actual operating in our services on our behalf. But I think that's what we'll have to look at is how do we utilize our volunteers, or would they have been at capacity?
Just a little suggestion. I would, if you have volunteers who are new, I think it might be worth looking into their backgrounds, you know, especially if they're new in town and they are unknown locally.
Yeah.
And the other thing is having some kind of a handout that you give volunteers, telling them that there's a possibility that they may have a background check.
They'll run.
And just having that in front of them will deter a lot of bad people. I at least I think it will. Without, you know, people that are known in the community and you know, have a history with the library, they would not have to worry about that. But anyone with issues in their background, just having that possibility would be somewhat of a deterrent. So I think that's maybe one way to approach this.
Well, and I think Marlene.
Sorry, yeah.
In Moab, when I volunteered with kids, you have to have a fingerprint, and maybe you're fingerprinted. Maybe that's less than a background check. I don't know. As far as I know, they didn't do a background check on me, but would be fine. But they were one-on-one. It was a mentoring program.
No.
And anything that I've done with children, that's what they've done, is fingerprinted us. So I don't know if that's costly. You know, it was pretty simple. I didn't have to go to the police station. It was someone did it in the school system. So I don't know if that would be plus looking into their background, or if that comes with it, if they run the fingerprints through. Do you know?
I don't know that answer to that. Mac might know, or someone else, but I don't know what the difference is.
You know,
But I do think if you announced it first, and if they had any inkling that way, they might run.
It's
the
so
job.
rare, like us having volunteers. It's a very rare for the children programming. It usually is somebody we've known our whole entire lives.
Yeah,
We know their whole history. I mean, we don't have a lot of strangers coming in to volunteer.
right.
And if we did, we'd probably actually be a little bit like, maybe we better check into that.
Yeah.
It's really rare. You're not talking masses of people, strangers coming in and
Yeah.
us turning kids over. Like Nicole said, it's somebody we've known since the day we were born, or, for 20, 30 years. We've known their whole history. We know their whole family. We know. So it's not like the big cities where you have a bunch of people that you don't know coming in.
And one thing too to think about is if we require of one volunteer who does story hour,
You have to do every.
have to do all of them.
Yeah.
But where if you have an open policy that says you may at some point be asked, that it is a possibility in your policy that a volunteer may be asked to get a background check, then I think that's the deterrent. The nice thing is we have a few months to discuss this and to get it right for our community. And I'm so glad that the sponsor of the bill decided that that he would revise that to give more control and say to our local library board rather than to the state library, who does not know. I mean, they're floored when they come down here and they see our county. And then I tell them, oh, well, our next Southern library is, a half hour away. And from there, we've got another 45 minutes. And then if you want to get the very corner of our county, to Navajo Mountain, we got to go another 2 hours or whatever. And they very few at the state library or people in up north understand the unique circumstances that we live in San Juan County. So number one is, yes, to protect our children as best we can. And so I think we've had a good discussion on this. And I think as you think of things, email me or Ramona or Michaela with thoughts, or keep a notebook of thoughts, and we'll continue this discussion. Is there anything else that anybody really wants to talk about before we move on?
Do you need us to type up a rough draft of a policy that we think would be effective, or is that something you're going to do and then we add to it, or how do you want to go about that?
That is really probably up to you as the chair. My plan was to do up a rough draft, but if you would rather do that, Ramona, and have more more.
No, I think I would rather have you do. I don't think I'm more of an add to it kind of person, or editing kind of person. I'm just not familiar enough with the whole legal aspect of it.
Oh, well, I'm not either.
Yeah.
I've been studying this HB 248 for a while and been watching it more. And so I was a little rusty on it because anyway.
Are there any other board members that would be interested in tackling a policy for this? You could refer to your policies inside your manual for any information that you might need, or information.
This is Marjorie. I'd be happy to help.
Well, in part with where it deals with employees, I have to have it in our human resource policies, and it's not there yet. And so we can always begin at that point. I've got to get the vulnerable adult portion in there as well. So I'm already opening that Pandora's box. And then from there, it should be pretty easy to reference the county's policy in there through just a small policy of the library board.
So Marjorie, are you interested in taking that on as a project?
I will be glad to help. I'll need guidance, but I have written policies before, so it's something
Okay.
I'm familiar with.
I would love to hand that over to you and just say, go for it. And then you and Nicole can collaborate, and you and And if you have questions or whatever, you can always get with Mac and just have him
Sure.
clarify.
You bet.
Okay.
It
So
sounds
if
like
you-
Ramona, it sounded like Mac was saying that his policy will probably set the tone for ours a little bit.
Right.
So Marjorie might even want to wait till he's got his
Okay.
drafted and then start working on it. So she doesn't have to create a whole wheel. She doesn't have to
Right.
recreate the wheel.
Yeah, I'm just on standby to help put words together.
Perfect.
I think it would be a good idea to start putting down anything that any board members feel strongly about, or
some sort of an outline.
and then we can have some points that maybe we need to address and discussions that we need to have. And then like Michaela and Mac were saying, like Mac, maybe that one will set the tone. And then maybe the library board wants to make the library policy more strict. I don't know, we probably couldn't make it less because we would have to follow with the county because we're under there. But if there was something you would like to add to that, then we could. But anyway, I wouldn't spend a lot of time on it right now. If Mac, I didn't realize Mac, you were, when I sent you a email about it, I didn't realize you were going to.
Yeah, we have
add
to.
in.
Do you know, Mac, when you'll be writing something up?
Well, on this one, we have until the 2024 of July. So I've got quite a while, but in practice, we really need to get it going on the vulnerable adult side. So here fairly quick, I'll have kind of the bare bones of what we're going to require for the county. And so when you look at vulnerable adults, that could also be those volunteers. And so I think Nicole and we're going to have some deeper discussions on that. And then when it comes to implementation, that's when we can reach out to Marjorie and the board here of, hey, does this make sense? And then run it by you guys.
Are you projecting like fall? I know Nicole really wants to get a jump on it. How far before July did you want to get it?
Sure. Before July 24th, fall would work perfect.
I'm thinking like fallish, have a rough draft, and then have it presented and done before that.
We shall see. Yeah.
All right.
And part of it too is this is something that we can task. There's other resources that we have.
I want to point out too that in this bill, if I'm interpreting it correctly, if someone were by some chance to come back with some sort of criminal background check, because it's not just sexual assault or something like that, it includes anything in your criminal history, anything in a person's criminal history, then the policy is supposed to be written to kind of qualify. Well, you know, if you were, I don't know, I can't figure out what would it be? You say you when you are
Parking
8 years ago, you shoplifted. And then since then you have truly changed your life around and you're, you're highly, so there, it's not like that immediately cuts you off from being able to, but this policy would make it as stringent or not. And then it looks like there's possibly a review, like allows them to respond to the information. Like, what is the policy going to say about allowing that person who does come back with a criminal investigation, allowing them to respond to the information that was gathered from the criminal background check? I'm just thinking like someone who maybe have gotten a DUI. How can I say this?
You want more recent.
It's not criminal.
If I were to have a staff member from a long time ago who worked in the library system, who had a DUI for the first time in their life ever, And then since it has not, and has been very responsible, would we hold that against him and say, I'm sorry, you can no longer hold your position? So it's those kinds of things. And I guess that's kind of where my mind went as I was going through this, is we need to, yeah, take those kinds of things into consideration. So.
Okay. We'll just keep brainstorming for every meeting. We'll keep bringing it up and say, hey, does anybody want to add to that?
Okay.
And I'm sure the state libraries also, they'll provide more direction as well on this to Nicole.
This is
Okay.
Kelly. Probably for an employee, county employee, they're probably in the human resources policies that address exactly what you're talking about.
I don't think there is anything about if you've had a DUI that you lose your job.
So we're working on that one. If your job requires that you drive and you get a DUI, the problem is now judges aren't necessarily giving out DUIs for if they pull somebody over that is driving while intoxicated. They will give them a lesser charge of driving while impaired, which allows them to still keep their driver's license and go through counseling to avoid that DUI charge, which makes sense, keeps them employed. But even our policies don't address that. And so holistically, we're working on that as well. If you do have somebody that's driving while impaired and gets into an accident in a county car, right now there is nothing that we can do about that. The county would be negligent if we knew that employee had that substance abuse problem or whatever the case.
So does a policy need to be very specific, or can it be more general and have it more like?
Oh, when you get generalities, you fall into problems where not this person, but this person, not this issue, but this. I'd rather have as much detail as possible so you never have to weigh in gray matters. That makes sense.
Okay. So could Marjorie start now, just kind of going through like the human resources policy and the other policies that we have, and just start to kind of brainstorm and maybe outline things? Would that be something that she could do right now? And then when it gets closer to the, the time that we decide to write it up or present it to the whole board, is that something that we should do now?
It's not going to hurt my feelings to wait.
I know, right? I won't be on the board after October, so I'm like, let's decide now, and then we can get the ball rolling now, and I won't forget about it next meeting, because we always forget. We're meeting like every other month, and we discuss stuff in one meeting, and then, oh, what did we talk about 2 months ago? I don't know. I don't remember. So I would rather
This is Kelly. My thoughts are we ought to just see what Matt comes up with as far as
Okay.
county policy starting that, and then
Okay.
go from there.
Okay.
Okay.
That sounds good. Is that what you're going to say too, Michaela? Okay. Okay. We'll just wait on that then. Mac, when you come up with that, you remember you have to bring this up again, because I'm not going to. So, okay.
No, I will definitely bring it up, because
Yeah.
we cannot receive state funding if we do not have this in
Right.
place by
Okay.
July. And Mac, I'm sure will be very much on top of it. But
Okay.
next thing is I've been working with UETN, which is the Utah Education and Telehealth oh gosh, I found another typo. Network, telehealth network, and gathering historical documentation requirements, ensuring that our current ISP, which we just passed in March of 2022, meets the required language and safety measures, as well as Utah statute and SIPA laws and other UETN requirements. It's been quite a project. I don't know if it's because I speak different languages, the IT people, but we're getting it figured out. But it's been very time consuming. And and very educational for me. Preparation for programming activity in anticipation of the annular eclipse in October, as well as the total eclipse on Monday in April 2024. We are continuing to develop that. Something that came to our attention early on in this is, especially in Blanding in the Southern libraries, we are going to be very culturally aware and sensitive to the Native American and their view of eclipses, where they can't even look at a picture of an eclipse. They cannot be out when there's an eclipse. It is very, now not all are traditional and follow that, but quite a few of them, even the younger ones that I've talked to about, the younger Native Americans, they take this very seriously.
Wow.
So we've invited Calvina Hanley to come participate in our activity to give us the view from the Native American culture about eclipses and what that means to their culture. But we will still be handing out eclipse glasses for those who want to participate. And we've got a number of books that we're putting on display and have ordered for those who want to check out the books and learn more about the eclipse. It's really quite a big deal. And we are in such a we're in line in that parameter where San Juan County is likely going to be hit very hard during that time, because we have a very optimal view within our county boundaries of that eclipse. Anyway, so we will be holding those activities 1 to 2 weeks before the eclipse. We were going to do it on the day of the eclipse, but after some discussion, decided it'd be better to do it ahead of that. Any questions? Marlene, did someone raise their hand? No?
Nope.
Okay. Recently I attended ULA, which is Utah Library Association conference. Thank you again to Mac and Bruce, who penned a letter in support of me applying for that scholarship, so that they paid for me to for the conference. I still have to pay the gas to go up there and back. Not I do, but the county, and for the hotel room and food that they did not provide for those meals, but it really cut down on the cost. Some of the classes I attended were supporting health literacy across cultures. Communication is the key, leadership development, growing leaders with intent, organically, a grant writing crash course, which I wish they would have had 10 of those. And I made that suggestion that they just really, because I really would like to become more educated on doing the more extensive grants. The county recently had a grant writing thing that I was able to go to the first one, and it was really informative. And I would like, I'm going to try to focus more on learning about writing for those more lucrative grants. Anyway, I'm not going to go into the others, but anyway, I learned quite a bit. Some of it after I got to the class, it didn't really fit the description of the class. And I was like, oh, I wish I could get up and hurry and go to another one, because this doesn't really apply. But it was still very worth the time to go and just to network with other librarians that attend, and to get to know our different state library state library staff. Summer reading has commenced. Our signups and distribution is going really well. We've got over 150 now that we've signed up, and we've had over 100 attend our first event. And today we had close to that, maybe 75 attend our second event. And it's just been crazy busy and awesome. Lots of positive feedback on that. Specific to Blanding. Again, our summer reading kickoff took place. The state library joined us for that kickoff. And because they came to conduct a digital service survey, and they brought some laptops, which we raffled off 3 laptops to anyone 14 and up that took the survey. And then they left us more laptops, which we will be circulating 3 of those laptops that they brought us. And 1 will go to LaSalle to replace a very ancient laptop there, and one will go to Montezuma Creek to circulate there. And so we were very, and then they left a lot of other goodies that we're going to get to use for summer reading. Okay, and then summer, wow, I just repeated myself on that. Man, I must have written this late at night. We also have 14 activities that we're going to hold throughout the summer. We had our first one today, and we had 5 participants that showed up today. And then we started a writing workshop class for 10 and up. And it's being held every Tuesday. We limited it to only 10 participants so that the instructor could have more one-on-one with them, which that would probably be a person that, although I know her, we would want to have a background check on, because there's children that are there, and she's sitting there writing with them. The sign-ups filled up so fast that we've already got the next class basically filled up and she's happy to continue this program. Our continued outreach programming, Story Hour is held every Wednesday at 11. Community Bible Study continues to be held every Thursday evening from 6 to 7. And the Community Book Club is held once a month on the second Monday of every month. We also have AA meetings that are held in our basement twice a week. Our themed new displays this month are the Great Outdoors. We will be losing Clarissa Williams, who's been with us for over 5 years. She's taking a different full-time position. Her position with us is not full-time, but she's been working full-time and part-time both. But this new full-time position will not allow her to work the hours that we need her in the summer like she could before, so we're going to really miss her. Her last day is June 30th. We will also be losing Caitlin Perkins, who's going off to college. So she is also, so she'll be replaced. Our interviews will take place June 22nd. Any library board members who want to join us, that will be in Blanding starting at 8 a.m. You're welcome, I believe, to come. I think we used to have library board members come. I know when I interviewed, we had a library board member there, but maybe the policies changed. I shouldn't offer that until I talk to Mac. Anyway, so there's that. And then Bluff Montezuma Creek Libraries, Mady continues to work on weeding the collection in Bluff, adding space and shelving to house more DVDs, because that's our #1 checkout. Montezuma Creek continues to have the highest number consistently in Wi-Fi use, second highest in in-house computer usage each month. I am in the summer often traveling to Montezuma Creek or Bluff to cover there, which I enjoy, but it is time consuming because I take my work with me, but it is very busy. It's busy enough that I can't really get much done, which is good. Of the 3 satellite branches, Montezuma Creek continues to have the largest patronage count. Both Bluff and Montezuma Creek libraries are consistently well attended by patrons for both checkouts and computer Wi-Fi use. Mady's working on developing an activity at the Bluff branch into anticipation of the coming eclipses, and glasses will be available at all of those branches as well. LaSalle, okay, Michaela's going to know more about this because she's really taken this on under her wing and she's done a fantastic job. We partnered with the LaSalle Senior Center. Max suggested that maybe we could move the library there. Once that was investigated a little more, we knew that there just was not room for that. But instead, Marcia, our LaSalle librarian, goes to the Senior Center once every other week. She sits down with the people there and helps them pick out a book if they want to, takes that request and then gathers the material, brings the next time, and then she takes their returned items back. And it just is I love that she was willing to do that. She's enjoyed it. And then Michaela meets with her. I'm supposed to jump on that meeting, but every time that they've done it, I've had a conflict. Anyway, so far, they've been meeting, the 2 of them. It's the last Thursday of every month. And Michaela has sat with Marcia to help set goals on how to help increase the patronage there, review the plan in place, where are we at? And then she sends me an excellent report so that I get all the details from it. And she will add anything to that when she does her report that I've missed. The Wi-Fi continues to be used frequently there. Coordination for the fiber optic between myself and UETN is continuing. The commissioners did approve the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, and there's supposed to be a walkthrough that they're supposed to schedule with me, but I haven't heard anything from them yet before they install it. And then Marcia will also be working on developing an activity for both coming eclipses. And then Michaela, let's see. I do have the statistics. Let me just, I'm not going to go through those. They're in your packet. If you want to take a look at them, they're there. And any questions? And if not, then we'll just turn it over to Michaela.
Okay. Speak now. If anybody does, I'll stop. Okay. I just wanted to go over a couple things. Our population is a little smaller than Blanding, so we have 83 kids signed up so far for the summer reading program, which is fun. We have a new thing that we've just done. So story hour is on Wednesdays at 11 during the school year. And Becky has noticed that during the summer, she has like this broad range of kids that come in, and she wanted room to be able to explore different things and adapt to the group that shows up each week. And so we are doing STEAM activities. So it's like STEM, but you add art in. And during the summer, when we have a wider range, she's planning all sorts of different learning activities. She still has some books there if kids want books, but she kind of adapts to what their needs and interests are. And like I said, she has like a broader age range that shows up. And that was kind of she kind of brainstormed what to do and how to adapt for Wednesdays to make it work for the group that she has. So she's doing that. And then we'll go do just more traditional story hour during the school year again. Although, like I said, she still has books there and reads them if there are kids that want to hear books. So it's just so that she can adapt things more. We hosted field trips for the grade school again, and my parents came and sang some of their kid numbers for them. Their great grandparents, and I mean, they're not great grandparents, but they're really good grandparents. They don't have any great grandchildren yet, but they have some fun kid numbers that they've done since I was a little kid, and the kids sent a huge stack of thank you notes for it and stuff. I think they enjoyed it. Anyhow, so that went well. And I always use that opportunity to promote our summer reading program. And I had bookmarks to send home with all the kids, showing the Scales and Tails thing, and then the other activities that are coming up, to try to, and we had like samples of crafts set up and all sorts of things to hopefully get them interested. Anyhow, we've got a partnership with the city pavilion. They have a park right behind us. And so we're going to do the Scales and Tails under that pavilion this time. So more people will have shade. I'm really excited about that. The city was willing to not charge us money, and they're even going to hopefully clean up the bathrooms and unlock them so that we can use them during that event, since we'll have so many little kids and hopefully enough supervision. So anyhow, so that's kind of exciting. We have some staff changes too. Laurie, who has been doing the jail shift, is leaving at the end of June. And Holly, who has worked here for years, she has decided she wants to be trained for the jail shift. So we do, some of us have background checks to some extent, because if we work at the jail, you have to have one. Anyhow, she's already had that, and she and I are going to be there tomorrow morning, and I'm going to walk her through and start the training process for that. And then we had done interviews recently enough that we were able to just hire our runner-up for the last time we hired, and without having to go through all the interviews and all of that, because we already knew that we had somebody who was fantastic that we would love to have. So Sally is going to be starting at the end of June. She'll, as Lori's leaving, Sally will be coming in, and Sally's going to head up our craft club during the school year, and then the summer reading activities during the summer. And she partners, I have Marcia overlap her, so we've got 2 people for those events.
What's Sally's last name?
Sally Jack.
Oh, Sally Jack. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about that. We are going to be working on, let's see, our sculpture. I don't know if everybody knows about the sculpture. Money was donated for this sculpture, which we've had in the lobby in memory of R.D. and V. Carroll. It was donated, and so I'm working with our maintenance and building guys to get that installed outside, which was their intent from, when they donated, they wanted something that would be outside. So it arrived too late in the winter to do it last year. So we're going to be doing it this spring, or I guess probably this summer. So that's pretty exciting. I've got our signs that we've got up all over for our activities for kids during the summer. And, and a picture of the field trip. We've also got a little fun little display set up that's some butterflies. They're in the caterpillar stage. And actually, I just ordered that out of my pocket, but then I was like, gosh, I'm here more than I'm home. So I'm going to put up a display and have everybody else get to watch this process too. So we've got that going on. And then I had some co-working. Oh, and we also put up like a sign right next to it of a whole bunch of books that have to do with butterflies in some way, just to promote some of our reading materials that we have. Then so I'm not sure if it'll pop up. We've got the co-working, the economic development is working on this. It's a two-sided flyer or card that's going to go to the motels and different things. And so we've got a rough draft for that, and we're aiming to have those printed and ready for putting out and distributing before the July festivities. So which would be the 4th of July in Blanding and the 24th in Monticello. So we have a draft for that she's come up with, and hopefully the photos are good enough. I just took them with my cell phone, so they're not like the most professional photos, but anyhow, so that's kind of exciting.
Are these pamphlets going to go to any other places besides the motels? Are they going to be like around town or any of the other communities?
As many places as they can get them, yeah. We're doing a mass printing once they finalize the design, and then we'll have plenty and they already distribute flyers and pamphlets all over the county, so they'll just make this a part of what they distribute. So there's a plan for that.
Can they legally put them in like post offices too? Everybody goes to the post office.
Right. There's certainly potential for it. There's that locked board that they probably would allow us to do it anyhow. So that, yeah, I'm sure that they'll check into everywhere that it's possible to put it. So I think that's a really, to be able to have them out and going by the festivities around July, I think is such a great opportunity to get the word out for us. We also, the other thing about the co-working thing was we also kind of looked, we were having some people come and check into it, locals and stuff, that were like starting up businesses and stuff, and a little, like the price point was intimidating to some of them. We've had some people passing through town that didn't, just did it all online and paid for it that way and came and used the space. But one of the things that I discussed with the economic development, was that we'd had feedback about some people that are from this community, which has economic stresses on it, and wanting to start up things, but like the price point was a little steep for them or intense. So we actually, Deborah from the economic development and I sat down and kind of tweaked some of the smaller packets to be a little bit more approachable. So we've got it so that it, so we did tweak those prices. Anyhow, that's on this little pamphlet that we aren't going to necessarily pass out to the motels. We're doing a generic one for the motels and things that just gives you the website so you can go to it and see the prices, because we didn't want to have to change it once we disseminated it everywhere. So this is the one that we just keep at the library here at the front desk. So we just print out a few at a time. When people walk in and ask about it, we can just hand it to them and they can look at the packets and what's available. But we just tweaked it so there's a $5 a day pass that people can do. And I think that's going to help, especially those locals. There's still the big packages that cost more, where you have 24-hour access and it costs more. And we left those kind of where they're at. But the smaller, we just made some that are like, we have people that come through town and that just have a doctor's meeting that they need to do virtually, or a virtual meeting for work. And they're like, I just need a couple hours to do this. And this just makes it more accessible. We wanted it to feel more accessible. So we've done that, adjusted those prices. I think that those are most of my notes on what I wanted to cover. So did anybody have any questions for me?
I do have one thing I want to add. This is Kelly. I was in the library in Monticello the other day, and because I have vision issues, and I forgot my my readers, magnifying glasses, and Becky was able to get me a magnifying glass, and I was able to read the material I needed to look at. So I just wanted to tell you, I think she's doing a great job and is very helpful there.
Oh, thanks. I adore my staff. They're all so fantastic. And luckily there's like, I think 2 or 3 of us that all use readers. So you should be able to always scare up a pair here. So anyhow, that's awesome. Thank you for that feedback. Did anybody else have any questions about any of this? Okay, awesome.
I just think that brochure looks fantastic. It's
That's nice.
morphed into something really nice. And I thought your pictures looked very, very well done. So yeah, it looks great.
Okay.
Mm.
Library chair report. I never have anything really substantial to add to the meeting because Nicole and Michaela and Mac are just doing an awesome job. And I just appreciate all the work and time that they put into it. I know Nicole does a lot, and I know Michaela does a lot because I've been on this board for a long time, and I don't want either one of their jobs or Mac's job. So they are the backbone and the heart of this whole, this library system wouldn't function without what we have here. So I appreciate you guys so much, and I appreciate the board members being willing to give input and suggestions And anytime that you have something that you hear from a community member or whatever, make sure you bring it to the board so we can, make it better. So, does anyone have agenda items for the next meeting? Usually not, but I want to just double check. Our next meeting is scheduled for July 27th. We're still good with that? Okay. Put that on your calendars. And so in your manuals, which everyone should have a manual, you have the strategic plan is inside of your manual, what we were talking about earlier. It looks like this. If you can see my picture. Okay. So I need you to read through that. That's in conjunction with what we talked about with the survey and the strategic plan. They're going to go together. So I want you to read through that really carefully and to see maybe what we're missing so far. If there's something we're missing, or if something that maybe we need to start setting in motion. I feel like when Heidi came down and she's like, oh, we need a separate committee to do the strategic plan. I feel like we are the committee. I don't know if we can get more community members to join up with what we're going to be doing. Unless there's a really big incentive, I can't see very many people joining up. So it's going to be us, and we can do this. It's not difficult. Don't be intimidated by the strategic plan. There's some things that have been completed on it, and there's some things that we need to look for the future planning of things. Like Nicole has mentioned some things that, new furniture, we're going to need new plumbing eventually in some of the buildings. We need to put that into our strategic plan of where that can fit and how we can accomplish those goals. So that's basically what the strategic plan is. It's just goals for the future running of the whole library system. If we do need to bring others into it, then we probably need to advertise that somehow. Add them to our committee or whatever. So to open meetings, has everyone done their training and sent in the whole? Nicole's keeping a list of who's done it and who hasn't done it. If you haven't done your homework, you're going to get an F in that class. Good job. Good job. So again, she sent out information. There's information on all of the emails that are coming through. If you're not getting the information from the emails, then let one of us know. Say, hey, where was that meeting at again? I need that link so you can go to it. But that is part of her, when she's saying she's doing all of these, what are they called again? I totally blanked on that. The requirements that you have to do every year.
Yeah, outreach.
Okay. I think actually to recertify,
Yes. I think
that
it
is
is.
that is part of a requirement that our board
Okay.
members have taken that
Okay.
training, I
The
believe.
recertification. I
No,
know.
like, the recertification. So we are okay. We're good for 2022, but that's now, coming. So we
Okay.
need to do it as soon as possible.
Okay. Clef Grant didn't have anything with trustees, did it? It was just the recertification.
I think it's just the recertification, I believe, but I could be wrong on that. And I'll
Yeah, it's been a while since I.
and that will be the next report that I've got to do after I get this recertification one done. So.
Okay. Are there any questions, comments? Is the July 27th, that's an okay day? I got a couple of thumbs up that was an okay date.
Okay.
You good? Okay. Marlene's good. Okay.
Good.
Heather's good. Marjorie's good. Zach
think
come done. Okay. Okay.
It should be a quicker meeting.
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay. Well, I appreciate everyone for attending tonight. I thought this was going to be a quick one, but you never know. Sometimes we have to discuss things with detail.
This is who real fast. This is who I have who's done the certification or the Open Meetings Act. Ramona, Tim, Zach. I think I got an email from Marjorie and Heather. I think Marlene is trying to.
I'm bad.
No, you're not bad. You're
Okay,
busy
okay.
and you did try today, but
I did. Yeah.
am I missing somebody that so Lucille, I believe still needs to, and Kelly possibly, and Marlene, I think. Is that right?
Yes, on me. I don't know.
Okay.
anything else.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, when do you need that done by? When is like your final
Well,
cutoff?
if you could get it before June, because June is when I fill out my survey and report. And
June of this, we're in June. Do you need it by like the next
before
week?
June 30th. Yeah, next week would be great. And I don't think it takes that long.
It doesn't.
It's like 30 minutes or 40.
It's probably not even that long.
Well, I
That's
did. I tried to check in, and it wouldn't take my passwords. But then I thought, well, I probably never filled out a form for it, so my computer's saying I don't have the right password. So I'll get it figured out.
If you can't get through that, Marlene, you're more than welcome to find anything online that even talks about the open meetings. It doesn't
Okay.
have to be that specific.
Because there was two different.
I didn't need a password when I did it.
Really?
There's a YouTube that the county did. That first link is a YouTube video. I don't think you'll have to have a password for that. The second one is through the government site,
Right.
So if
it's
you just do the first link, you can count that. And so,
Okay.
The
That's good.
first link was to like a commissioner meeting and it was like a 4-hour video. So I don't know if that it was the correct video.
maybe I sent the wrong one, then I am sorry.
Yeah. Like a
Yeah.
meeting from.
Why? Because it starts at a certain point in that.
Yeah, so I don't know. You'd have to find it, I guess. I kind of went through it, but then I thought I did it. So I found the website
Oh, yeah.
again and
Sorry
I know.
about that. That you go to a certain point in the video and then it goes for like 20 minutes or something like that. Sorry.
Did you go through the whole 4-hour meeting, Heather?
No, I did it like a while ago, but I was looking at it today and I was like, this is weird. And I kind of went through it a little bit, but I never really found anything that related to it. And I went back out and found the other link and I'm like, I already did that.
So which
Yeah.
link was it that you went to? The one that Ramona
It was-
sent today?
Yes, I believe so. And then I, when I did that class, I messed up my name and I accidentally went forward. And the girl emailed me back and she's like, what's your name? And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't figure out how to go back. So I don't think you need a password, but you do put your email in there.
Could you send that again? Because now I've been messing around with this.
Yeah, that's the training.auditor.utah. Thanks, Zach.
Yeah, I was wrong. I think I did have a password in there.
I know, I
But-
can't remember.
You might have
think
created an
this-
account.
Is it one that you just made up, or it's one that you use for that computer?
I
that I
think you
just
made-
made up when I registered. So
Yeah.
if you can't get in, maybe you can reset your password. If you've already done it, years ago, you might have used the same email.
Right.
So you might already have-
No, I've
no?
never done it to that link, so I don't know.
You probably have to just register as a new user then for that
Yeah,
specific
and
site.
I didn't see a link like that. Maybe I just overlooked it. But if you could send that again, Ramona,
Okay,
okay?
Could you send
Yes,
that
we
to me too, Kelly?
yep. Yeah, we'll resend it to you. And if you can't figure that out, like I said, just go online and find anything that's open meeting, training, like related in any way. There's a lot of stuff out there. Most of them have like some written stuff that goes along with it. And some of it is like the one, this auditor.gov one is pretty, I thought it was pretty entertaining. I mean, it's just bounces right along really fast through the whole thing. But, and then there's another one that I watched that was done in St. George. The guy was pretty entertaining. So
Really?
I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you can't do it, then
How do we verify? How do we let you know that, we did the training?
And send an email to Nicole. Once you've watched the videos
Oh.
or read the information, then send an email to Nicole saying, I did the training on this one. This government one lets you actually like send a certificate or print out a certificate if you wanted to do that.
Okay.
So whichever way
Okay.
you want to go. It's not as hard as it seems. It's pretty easy homework. So, all
If it
right.
was paper, I would have it filled out and mailed in already.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So your assignment, your homework for till before the next meeting is you're going to go through the survey. Email me any suggestions, changes, whatever you want. Read through your strategic plan that's inside your manual. And you can even, like I said, it's pretty interesting reading to read through the whole Utah Public Library trustee manual part that's in your binder, just so you get a better idea like what your job entails. I mean, if we were in a bigger community, a lot more of the information in there makes more sense than it does for our community, like Friends of the Library. We don't really have that kind of, substance in our community. So anyways, all right. Well, if we have a motion to adjourn, I will take that and go with it.
I'll make a motion. to
I'll
adjourn.
second
Okay.
that. Huckabee,
Okay. It's
second
been
that.
moved by Zach that we adjourn at 8:03 p.m. and seconded by Marlene. All in favor, say aye and state your name.
Aye, Huckabee.
Hi, Lynn.
Okay, it's unanimous. July 27th, put it on your calendars. And thank you everyone for joining us tonight. And I look forward to the next meeting. So have a great month of summer. Have fun.
Thanks.
Do something fun.
Bye. Thanks for all your hard work, Nicole and Michaela.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thank you.
and Mona, thank you.